At my daughter's wedding in Savannah, Georgia, there were white roses everywhere, champagne towers, a harpist flown in from New York, and security guards holding up my photo, scanning the crowd like I was some lunatic. Because to her, I was. Do not let Waylon Moss inside. He's unstable, might try to cause a scene. That's what my daughter Delaney told them. My daughter, who I raised alone after her mother died of lupus when Delaney was just 10. I had picked her up from ballet rehearsals in a rusted-out Chevy. I had packed her school lunches, worked graveyard shifts to afford her tuition at Emory, and held her hand through panic attacks before the MCATs. But now she didn't want me near her $200,000 wedding. She said I was trash, that I'd ruin her new life. That morning, I tried to drop off her childhood photo album, a surprise gift. A reminder of the girl who once begged me to braid her hair before bed. The guards threw it in the mud. Delaney stood by the window with a mimosa in her hand, watched the whole thing, and smiled. She texted me 2 words. Delete everything. Delaney met Pierce Montgomery 3 years ago. His family owns beachfront property in Hilton Head and sits on old plantation money. His mother, Celeste, wears diamond pins the size of a thumb and talks about legacy like it's a bank account. The first time I met Pierce, he said, "Waylon, that your car out front looks like the kind of thing my family donates for tax write-offs." Delaney giggled. I laughed too, but something inside me cracked. It got worse after the engagement. She said I needed to wear custom suits, get my teeth bleached, and lose 25 pounds before I could be seen in wedding photos. Celeste even offered to help me afford a nose job. I reminded Delaney I was still paying off her med school loans. She said, "That was your decision, Dad, not mine." Then came the final blow. She told me Pierce's family wanted her to explain why her father was just a facilities manager instead of a lawyer or someone respectable. She said she was ashamed of where she came from. First call to action. Have you ever had a loved one turn on you for status or money? Drop your city in the comments. I want to see how many of us have been betrayed by our own blood. 2 weeks before the wedding, she sent the text. Security will treat you as a dangerous individual. Do not come. This is your final warning. 3 days later, Pierce DM'd me a photo of him and Delaney posing next to my Toyota in a restaurant parking lot. Caption, "This is why we don't want trash at our wedding." Rolling, I didn't reply. I updated my will. I sold the house she thought she'd inherit. I changed every beneficiary form, life insurance, retirement, bank accounts. I even shut down the college savings account I'd quietly funded for her future kids. Then I made one last call. 4 days after the wedding, at 3:02 a.m., my phone lit up. Delaney had unblocked me. Her texts read like panic in real time. "Dad, why haven't you reached out? Pierce wants to know when you're apologizing. Wait, who did you sell the house to?" Boom. That house, the one she told Pierce's family was worth $700K. Gone. Sold. To a retired firefighter couple who moved in just as she was unwrapping wedding gifts. Delaney called from a blocked number, sobbing. "You're ruining everything," she said. I told her, "No, you did that when you hired guards to keep me away from my own daughter's wedding." Then I told her she was out of my will, out of my accounts, out of my life. She screamed. Pierce got on the phone and said I was stealing from my own future grandkids. He said Celeste would consider letting me attend future holidays if I took etiquette classes and revised my attitude. I told him, "Support your own wife, Pierce. I'm just a dangerous stalker, remember?" I started digging, not out of curiosity, out of rage. Because when your child calls you garbage and your son-in-law laughs at your car while spending your money, you either cry or you go to war. And I was done crying. I spent every free evening combing public records, social media posts, and property databases. Celeste loved to show off her life on Instagram, lobster lunches, Saks receipts, investment properties. And boy, did she leave a digital trail. What I found wasn't just petty, it was federal. Pierce claimed he was a partner at Montgomery and Walsh Real Estate Group. He wasn't. His uncle Winston owns it. Pierce is just a glorified junior associate with no ownership. No equity, no power. He wore expensive suits but couldn't close deals without Winston pulling the strings. Celeste and Winston had remortgaged their Hilton Head house 3 times. They had a $1.1 million balance hanging over their heads and a $250K home equity line funding the wedding. The beachfront rental they bragged about. It was listed 3 times. No buyers. How do I know? Public records. MLS listings, foreclosure notices. Turns out, old money doesn't mean good money. Winston's firm was being sued by 4 former investors. They claimed they were sold inflated properties using fraudulent appraisals and falsified comps. Guess who signed the paperwork? Pierce, over a dozen times. I cross-referenced his signature on public mortgage filings. The numbers didn't lie. They were defrauding investors and banks by inflating values, sometimes by hundreds of thousands. That's mortgage fraud, and it had gone unnoticed until now. I sent an anonymous tip to 2 major credit companies. Included were screenshots of public lawsuits and social media evidence of excessive spending right after loans were issued. Within 10 days, Celeste's credit limits dropped. Pierce's corporate AMX was frozen. They posted online about banking discrimination. No, darling, that's just math. I contacted the wedding photographer, florist, and caterer. I didn't lie. I simply expressed concern about their ability to pay and referenced the mortgage liens I'd found. They went into collection mode fast. Within 48 hours, the wedding's caterer left a very public comment on Celeste's latest Facebook photo. Glad you had fun. Invoice 329 is 47 days overdue. We'll be in touch. Oof. Then I dropped the nuke. I compiled every public record, cross-checked with appraisal fraud allegations, and handed the whole package, neatly organized and time-stamped, to the lawyer representing the original investors suing Winston's firm. The next week, their assets were frozen. Pierce was named in a civil fraud suit. Winston's real estate license was suspended. They went from sipping Dom Perignon at the Ritz to cashing out jewelry to pay retainers. This time, she was crying so hard I could barely understand her. Why are you doing this? You're destroying us. I said, you destroyed me when you threw away the album of your mother holding you for the first time. That's what you buried in the mud, Delaney, not just paper. She said she was pregnant, that this was hurting her baby. That family meant helping, even when it's hard. I replied, then you shouldn't have burned the bridge before crossing it. Remember when Delaney said I was hurting her baby? That she'd forgive me if I just helped Pierce clear his name. Well, I wasn't done. While they were scrambling to keep the wedding vendors from suing them in small claims court, I launched my final move, the one I'd been building toward for months. Because Pierce hadn't just signed shady appraisals. He'd signed federal lending documents. And that is not just fraud, that's wire fraud and mortgage fraud, both felonies. A buddy of mine, Curtis, works in title processing in Atlanta. He helped me quietly verify property records through their firm's pipeline. We found 12 transactions where values were overstated by more than 40%, signed off by Pierce Montgomery. Using public real estate sales data and matching them against recorded loans, it became clear they were falsifying values to push loans higher and taking kickbacks under the table. I compiled it all. Mortgage numbers, signatures, closing dates, bank affiliations, linked shell LLCs, and I handed it to someone who does care, a forensic auditor from the Office of the Inspector General. How? Through an anonymous whistleblower tip page. Legit. Legal, documented. A month passed. I said nothing. Then Pierce's LinkedIn vanished. The firm's website redirected to a 404 error, and an online news outlet posted a breaking report about a regional fraud investigation into Montgomery and Walsh Real Estate Group. I didn't even have to send the article to Delaney. She saw it, and she knew. 3:11 a.m. Delaney called again. No tears this time. Dad, it's everywhere. They've frozen the firm's accounts. Pierce is being subpoenaed. Uncle Winston said you had something to do with it. I didn't deny it. I told her. Yes, I made sure the truth found its way to the right people. You're destroying us, she screamed. I said, no. I just stopped protecting people who treated me like trash, and now the world sees you for what you are. Then she said it. You always taught me to fight for family. What happened to that? I paused, then told her. You're not family anymore. You made that clear when you hired guards to throw your father out of your life for being poor, she said. But I'm your daughter, I replied. No, you're Celeste's daughter now. Let her bail you out. Then I hung up. What she didn't know, I wasn't done yet. The private investigator I hired, he'd uncovered Pierce's secret bank account linked to the Shell LLC they funneled wedding vendor kickbacks through. Fake invoices, false payments, all traceable. I passed it all to the feds. It was a rainy Tuesday in Savannah. I had just finished my morning coffee when I heard it, 3 soft knocks on my apartment door. I opened it. And there she was, Delaney, 7 months pregnant, mascara running down her face. One of Celeste's designer coats draped over her shoulders, soaked and fraying at the hem. She didn't speak for a moment. Just stood there, holding her belly like a shield. I have nowhere else to go, Dad. Pierce's name was officially listed on a grand jury indictment. Celeste had posted a desperate message on Facebook. Please join us for an emergency fundraiser brunch. All proceeds go toward defending a falsely accused family legacy. Only 2 people showed up, and one of them just came for the food. The FBI had frozen all Montgomery family assets. The IRS had launched its own investigation. Every vendor who'd been burned was suing for damages. The Real Estate Board in Georgia blacklisted the entire firm. They were finished. Publicly, permanently, I let Delaney in. She sat on the edge of my couch like she was in a stranger's home. I know you hate me, she said quietly. I didn't answer. Pierce is living at his uncle's cabin. Celeste stopped returning my calls. We're done. She reached into her purse and pulled out a stack of old photos. These are the ones you gave me in the album, the ones the guards threw away. I kept them, even after. She slid them across the coffee table. I messed up. I was wrong, I let their world poison mine, and now it's all gone. Then she said it, the real reason she was here. I don't care about the money, I swear I don't, I don't want my child to grow up without a grandfather. My jaw clenched. I want them to know who you really are, not the version Pierce made you out to be. I told her I was sorry for what she lost, but I also reminded her. You called me a loser. You let security throw me out like a threat. You watched as they destroyed your mother's memory. You erased me, so I made sure I'd never be forgotten. She sobbed, begged, said she'd do anything, so I gave her a choice. If you want to be in this baby's life, you cut ties with Pierce. Forever, you testify to what you know, publicly, you acknowledge what your silence helped cover, then maybe you can start over, but not as my daughter, as someone new, someone honest. She stared at me. And if I don't? Then walk out. And don't knock again. 3 weeks passed, no calls, no knocks, no updates. Then one morning, the headline hit every local feed. Pierce Montgomery pleads guilty in federal real estate fraud case, faces up to 25 years. He took a plea deal. In exchange for a reduced sentence, he named names, including his own uncle, Winston. Delaney, she testified. She stood in court, one hand on her swollen belly, and admitted everything. How she knew the appraisals were fake. How Pierce bragged about it. How Celeste taught her to lie to protect the family brand. Her statement didn't save them, but it saved her. I watched it all from my apartment on a small TV in my modest living room, bought with money I earned, not stole. I watched my daughter speak the truth for the first time in years. She didn't cry, she didn't ask for forgiveness. She just told the truth. And sometimes that's more powerful than an apology. She came back. No coat, no makeup, just herself. She placed a small photo frame on my table. Inside was a sonogram and a sticky note. His name is Miles, after Mom. If you want to meet him, I'd be honored. She turned to leave. This time I called out, Delaney, she turned. Bring him by, I'll make pancakes. She nodded. Didn't smile, just understood. Celeste filed for bankruptcy. Winston fled to Florida. Pierce is due to begin a 12-year sentence. I bought a small boat, not fancy, but enough to take Miles fishing one day. As for Delaney, she's rebuilding her life. Slowly, no luxury, no lies, just truth and time. Revenge didn't fix everything, but it gave me back my dignity. And when people like Pierce treat someone like me, someone who worked their whole life to provide, with shame and scorn, they deserve every sleepless night, every courtroom visit, every empty seat at the table they tried to fill with power, because I was never trash. They were just afraid of being seen next to someone who earned what they pretended to be. And now, they've lost everything. I still make pancakes. And sometimes I keep one photo on the fridge, the one they tried to throw in the mud, because revenge is good, but remembering, that's better.